Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
We all worry about our mind, our memory. People think they lose their keys and that means they're getting Alzheimer's, and it really doesn't. There's so much more to it. And I love experts, and we have an expert in our studio, Dr. Blanca Palencia-Kerr. She has a PhD, and she's what we call a neuropsychologist. And she's over at the Memory Disorders Center at Broward Health North. I know a lot about that center, but why I'm so excited and why I've asked Traci Allyn Shur, who is the president of Broward Health Foundation, to be on the line with us is because we're trying to raise money to make the center much bigger and much better than it's been. Now, it's been a good center for a long time. I've told everyone my mother went there. I didn't call it the Memory Disorder Center. I call it the Memory Center. If she went there, she'd have a better memory. And so now we're into, I think it's now going to be called the Neuroscience Center. It's pretty exciting. But I'm sure Dr. Palencia-Kerr is going to get me straight. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anita. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell me why you're interested in a subject like this.
I love identifying disorders. The first step to solve a problem is to identify the disorder, define the problem. When the patient comes and asks us, do I have dementia, we really have to put all our tools together, neurologists and neuropsychologists, to really diagnose if there is a dementia or no. So there is a lot of misconception about dementia. As you know, Anita, some people think that dementia is part of aging. So that's the first thing I would like to straight up, so to speak. Aging doesn't come with dementia. Dementia is a disease. Aging, we all know that with age we change, cognitive changes occur, but not of such severity as in a dementia. So my job in the center, in the Memory Disorder Center, is to help with the diagnosis.
So, Traci, hearing all this, tell me if I'm wrong. Is it going to be called the Neuroscience Center that we're now getting funds for?
Yes, it's actually going to be called the Lillian S. Wells Neurological Institute at Broward Health North. We were fortunate enough to have one of our longtime donors, Barbara Wells, make a gift 2 years ago to name the new Neurological Institute. She gave us $1 million, which shows a tremendous amount of faith and confidence in Broward Health as a system and Broward Health Foundation as a foundation to give us a gift of that size to bring awareness and bring a name recognition to a center that's been there for more than 30 years providing outstanding care.
Yeah, that's very good. And so you were very lucky, of course, to, it's funny. You could have bricks and mortar, and they're great. But if you get someone like Dr. Palencia-Kerr, I've got to tell you, her first name is Blanca.
Blanca.
Right?
Blanca.
Okay, Blanca Palencia-Kerr.
Glad you know Spanish, Anita.
Yes, I do. I do know that, and I'm glad that you're doing this. Where are you actually from?
From Colombia, South America.
Okay, so here you are in sunny Florida.
Right.
Well, Traci, this is a dream for the Broward Health system to have an exciting neuroscience center I'm using that word, for people who want to have the very best help in that area, because we know that this is a growing problem.
Definitely.
And we need to do something about it. And I'm so glad that Dr. Palencia-Kerr is here doing this. So Dr. Palencia-Kerr, would you tell us, if someone is really seriously ill with a memory disorder, not just that they're forgetting simple things, what is the first thing that you're supposed to do? You're supposed to just make an appointment and there are tests that follow?
That's a good question. So when usually it's the caregiver who notices that the memory lapses, the forgetfulness is not just occasional, but they see that the loved one begins to do mistakes very often. That is, the frequency of the problem increases, and the future patient, begins to ask the same question over and over and over, misplaces objects, not occasional, because we all have memory lapses, mental lapses, where did I put my keys? But when the caregiver begins noticing that the frequency of these problems increases, the forgetfulness, repeating questions, sometimes the patient has difficulty with language, begins trying to speak but cannot find the words or cannot get the story straight, then the caregiver, usually the spouse or an adult child, has to make an appointment at the memory center.
Or that they put their keys in the freezer.
Right.
I mean, you know,
you have heard it all.
That's right, but I'm very, you know, I want people to hear this because you don't have to worry. I know that a lot of people do worry about this. The young boomers, because they're doing too many things. They're not concentrating. You've seen them have their iPhone in one hand and they're doing something else with another. So I'd like you to talk about that a little bit.
Multitasking. I think let's begin. How about we begin, Anita, defining dementia, so that we can distinguish between aging and memory lapses that we all will have when we increase in age, and dementia. So dementia is the loss of mental ability significant enough that interferes with daily activities. So when the memory loss really begins to interfere with, I cannot balance my checkbook, did I take a shower today or I didn't take a shower? If I am following a recipe that I have been doing for the last 20 years of my life and I forgot the second step, you know, when it's beginning to interfere with the daily life, that's when we have dementia.
Okay, so now someone says that's a problem.
Right.
So the next thing for them to do, and not to be afraid, because that's probably the first thing, are these simple tests that you do?
That's a good question. First, they will come and see the neurologist, and we have great neurologists at Broward Health North. Dr. Wiley is our medical director, but also Dr. Ishmael is the neurologist too, and Dr. Lin, who is the director of the stroke center, he also refers patients to me. So they see the neurologist, and the neurologist rules out that there are no physiological causes. Because what is important here to clarify to your audience is that there are some reversible causes of dementia. For example, a person can have a deficiency in vitamin B12. So the doctor, the MD, will rule out that the person has no problem. Thyroid deficiency can cause dementia-like syndromes. So the MD, the neurologist, will rule out that there are no medical causes of memory loss. And once all those problems have been ruled out, then the neurologist will send and ask for an MRI. We want to look at the brain or CT scan, and they will look or order the neuropsychological assessment. The beauty of neuropsych assessment, Anita, is that in spite of the brain not showing structural or anatomical anomalies, dysfunction, the neuropsych tests are sensitive enough to pick up that there is cerebral dysfunction. So the neurologist receives the MRI and there is nothing structural there. There is no tumor, nothing that is of concern. But when we do the neuropsychological testing, we see that the patient is scoring very low. And then we think that the brain structures that are usually affected by Alzheimer's disease, for example, are impaired. So we give a diagnosis of dementia.
Well, Traci, listening to this, you're a busy woman. I'm a busy woman. I forget a lot of things. I've been somewhere and I say, did I go there or did I come back? I don't think that's it. Does this happen to you too?
Yes, I do forget. A lot of times I meet so many people in my course of daily life that sometimes I meet people, they come up and they kiss and hug me and I can't for the life of me know who they are. And that scares me sometimes because I'm usually very good at that. But sometimes I absolutely do say, who is that person? I can't remember their name. And usually 9 out of 10 times I will remember, and sometimes I just don't.
Yeah, exactly.
And that does scare me. I say, is it happening? Is it happening to me? Is something happening to me? So that's very familiar, but I think it has to do with stress also.
Absolutely.
I think that's a big factor in that.
Well, one thing I want to share with Traci Allyn Shur, who is the president of Broward Health Foundation. There's nothing wrong with her memory because she gets into those foundation board meetings. She knows everything that's going on. She knows everybody. And also, I can attest, Traci, it's not that.
Thank you.
But, Traci, you're very excited now about having this whole new, I don't want to call it a facility in a sense, but it's going to make, it's like it's almost like making a twin for the Broward Health North. It's another thing that's going to be there.
Yes, but it is very exciting because what we're doing, this project is actually taking all of the outstanding services that we have providing all of those years that have been throughout the entire hospital facility, and taking all of those services and bringing them into one central location, private entrance, private parking, to make it comfortable, easy, and accessible for patients and also for their caregivers, because caregivers have a big role in any patient that is going through any kind of neurological issues, whether it's stroke, Alzheimer's, dementia, any kind of memory disorder. It definitely affects the caregiver. So instead of having to go to the second floor for an MRI and the first floor for a doctor's visit or a consultation with a social worker, we're bringing all of those services into one place. You only have to go in one entrance, one place, and you get everything.
Yeah, and it is exciting, Anita, that one stop, and they will have comprehensive care. If the patient comes for a stroke, but then he or she begins having seizures, we will have an epileptic center. If it's headaches, then we will have headaches. So on top of all the wonderful centers that we have, the vascular center, the sleep center, the rehabilitation center, we're going to have more neurological disorder centers. So we will have neuromuscular disorder center, we will have movement disorder center, Parkinson. So to have all these experts and have this multidisciplinary team is very exciting because we will really be able to serve the patient. Yeah.
And you do talk about, of course, you were talking about Parkinson's Center, and in a sense because it's all the movement and all.
Right.
But so how many physicians are there associated with this now?
I don't know exactly how many are there now.
But in other words, you're pulling in, as you said, all the experts so that when you decide you can refer this person, they don't have to go away to some other place. It's all there within the hospital.
All the neurologists will be in the same place. And what the beauty of this is that the expert in, let's say, ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, can talk with the expert in seizures, or the expert in seizures wants to talk with the expert in stroke, and so on and so forth. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And do you have one person, though, so when they go there, that let's say you're the conductor, you're the orchestra leader of all these things happening?
No, I'm the neuropsychologist. I will provide support to any neurologist who wants to have a thorough, comprehensive examination of the neurocognitive or the thinking skills. If a patient, for example, the doctor has a seizure patient and he is wondering if seizures are affecting memory, there I am. I will provide that answer. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely.
If a patient has a movement disorder, Parkinson patients late in the disease, about 10 years in the disease, they begin to develop memory problems. So I will be there to answer the question. And if the patient has headaches and the physician is saying maybe the patient is depressed, I will be there to work with that physician.
Well, this is excellent because there's so much misdiagnosis in medicine, and
Absolutely.
It takes time for someone to have someone like you to go over the case, think about it, think of the possibilities. That's really what's needed. So it sounds to me like you're not going to give them a short time. You're going to take the time, aren't you?
A neuropsychological evaluation, Anita, is time-consuming. Typically, it's about 3 hours, 3 to 5 hours. And actually, we have a handout where we explain to the patient what does a neuropsych testing, a neuropsych evaluation. They call it neuropsych evaluation, neuropsych assessment, or neuropsych testing. So we have a handout where we explain to the patient what does that entail. And basically, we explain that we're going to be testing the thinking skills, the memory, language, problem solving, as well as behavioral and emotional issues.
So if we want to recommend people so that they could call, I'm going to give them a phone number, but I'm also going to give them, let's get them on the website, browardhealth.org/BHN, correct?
Tracy, is that correct?
Is that right, Tracy? So
yes.
They can get on the website, and then you can actually you have a picture of our wonderful neuropsychologist who is so attractive. Dr. Palencia-Kerr. Yeah, well, do you have, I forget, I've been on so many websites, but I think people want to be able to relate to someone, because usually all this is very, very traumatic, as you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're scared. And the other thing I wanted to say, people have to bring someone with them. They should never come alone,
so
right?
That's such a good point, an important point. Unfortunately, sometimes a patient comes alone, and that makes it very hard for us to really have information about activities of daily living. Remember that we were saying that the definition says that we have to have impairment in the activities of daily living. How do we know if we don't have a significant other, a partner, a child? So we encourage people to bring somebody to the appointment.
And, Traci, since you are on the line and we are in a big fundraising mode,
yes,
tell us what people can do. Why don't you do your great speech
do my thing.
Oh,
well, we are. This is an ongoing, what I will call special gift effort to raise. We are trying to raise $3 million to completely renovate this space to accommodate the new Lillian S. Wells Neurological Institute. So there are naming opportunities throughout this institute, and people can support it. There are medical offices throughout this facility that are able to be named, consultation rooms, exam rooms for patients to be seen in. There's a diagnostic lab. There is a research area. There's a reception area. There's the entire memory disorder center that is just the area focusing strictly on memory disorder. These are all significant funding opportunities that can be made as a pledge over 5 years, and these are permanent opportunities, so someone can name something in this facility for a loved one, in honor of a loved one, in memory of a loved one, in a corporation, in a personal name, in any way. But it's a wonderful way for the community to come together and know that they can help us build this facility that they will need to access. At some point in everyone's life, this facility is going to be needed by someone in one way or another. So it's important that the community gets behind it and tries to support it by making a gift to Broward Health Foundation.
And how can they make that gift to the foundation?
Well, they can call the foundation directly. They can go online. I would prefer to actually talk to somebody in person to tell them more about this and give them more information, physical information about this facility, because it is so impressive, and there really is never enough time to go through all of the things that we will be providing and the enormity of the contribution to the community that this center is going to make.
And excuse me, and then I want people to know, as you're driving on I-95 and you're passing Sample Road, don't pass it. Just go over there. But it's off I-95 and Sample Road. And
correct.
It's actually had a little bit of a facelift, I think.
Yes, and it's going to be beautiful on the outside, but it's equally beautiful on the inside.
Right. So, you see, Broward Health has, we have 4 hospitals, don't we?
Correct.
4.
Yes.
And this is the one up in the north end.
Correct.
For people who live in Boca, Boynton, this is the one that they want to go to. And then, of course, we have all those wonderful hospitals in Coral Springs and down into Fort Lauderdale. And what did I miss?
Broward Health Medicals for Fort and Imperial Point, which is on Federal Highway.
Imperial Point. How could I forget that?
Yes.
So I want to go back to that. So if someone at Imperial Point has someone who they are curious as to what's going on with them, would they refer them up to you then?
I think so.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that's what they're going to do. So you're putting it all into one place
now.
One
stop for comprehensive treatment, yeah. And given that Broward County is the second largest county in Florida, I think Broward Health North really provides a big contribution for healthcare in this area. Yeah. And talking about Alzheimer's, the Memory Disorder Center, let's remember that Broward County has a large elder population. Right now we have 14.2% of elderly in Broward County, and the projections are that in 2030 it's going to be 19.5 approximately of elderly. That is people between 60 and 80 years of age. So we are expecting that the demand of services to identify Alzheimer's or other types of dementia are going to be growing.
So, Dr. Palencia-Kerr, I wanted to ask you, though, I always deal in cutting-edge issues. Mm-hmm. Tell me what's the most cutting-edge issue in your field now that you're working on?
You know, Anita, what is very exciting in neuroscience, and I love history. So let me tell you, through the whole 20th century, we thought that adults did not regenerate neurons, the nerve cells. So you would review the literature, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and we used to say to patients with traumatic brain injury, you're going to recover for about 2 years, and after that, forget it, because children have neurogenesis, that is developing neurons, but you as an adult, you don't. Well, in the 90s, there was a big revolution in neuroscience, and now we know that adult brains are plastic, and with that I mean are malleable. We continue developing neurons, we continue developing new networks, even if we're in our 80s. So now we don't have that ceiling, you know, that's as far as you went because 2 years ago was your injury, that's it. No, now we know that the brain will continue to change. Therefore, we talk about cerebral plasticity because the expectation is that the patient can continue improving.
Yes, I had an interview with a person at some big university up north, and he wrote a book on that, plasticity, many years ago. And It was exciting because, as he said, and as you were just saying, once you have a stroke, people would say, well, that's it.
Yeah.
And it isn't.
Yeah.
Even people with strokes 10 years
Absolutely.
later. So they need to, though, go to a center that understands what to do. You just can't sit there.
Absolutely.
Right? You've got to help them.
You have to go to a center where they understand this, and they will continue to guide you so that you have activities and exercises, etc., so that your brain continues to develop and compensates for the area that it doesn't work anymore.
It's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
For
you in your field.
Yeah, it is very exciting.
Yeah, it must be.
It is very exciting.
And so I'm hearing you're talking about Parkinson's and ALS, and you're talking about, the stroke. So this is all neuro. This is all to do with it, right?
And remember that the brain is the only organ that studies itself. So we're studying our own brains. So the brain is fantastic. It's fantastic because it allows us to think, to talk, to move, to reason. So it's a wonderful.
Well, you
organ.
think about Mr. Hawkins, who can't move anything else, but his brain still functions.
His ability to reason is a lot better than mine.
No, it is, because it
is just
it's
amazing.
so wonderful you said that. In fact, I was once at a seminar, and Scripps Up Research was doing something, and they had their chairman come down, and he was talking about the brain. And he didn't warn us. And all of a sudden, he said, I hope if anybody gets upset with this, they can leave. He picks up a brain from down in a box and shows it to us. And that was very unusual. You would have liked that, Traci.
I would have.
I mean, it was a little, usually you see plastic brains, but you don't really see the real brain.
The real one.
And, of course, then he started pointing out all the various pieces of that brain and what it does.
Yeah. It is amazing. And the research ongoing right now in Europe and in the U.S., everywhere is amazing. It's amazing because we have found out that the brain doesn't remain static, doesn't remain passive when it receives an injury. It really fights back. So some of the experts in neuroscience field, they talk about real estate in the brain. So when an area of the real estate in the brain it receive a stroke, that real estate is not completely dead because other areas are going to begin assuming the functions of that real estate. So it's a funny parallel that they do, but I think it gets the point across.
It does, very well. So, Traci, a lot of this is new to you, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Fascinating. It's just fascinating to be able to support something and help in any way. This is just fascinating to me.
That's why Traci does this. She loves this. She's so enthusiastic, and if you have any money, don't get near her because she's going to get it. She's going to get it.
I'm going to give it my best shot for sure.
I think she has X-ray vision, and she can look into your wallet or something, see if you have any loose change there.
And it's a great project. So
it is
we need people like Traci.
No, that's true, and it is a very special project that you're going to be completing. When do you anticipate? I know we're trying to raise the other. What is it? 3 million more?
Yes, we've raised about $1 million. We've raised about $1 million and a half, a little bit more than that. So I would say by next year we're hoping to have this facility completely finished.
And so,
and the sooner we raise the money, the sooner it's going to get built.
Mm-hmm. So that's what you're hoping. So in 2 years, hopefully for sure,
yes,
something will be there.
Yes, definitely. Probably less, more like a year. I'm hoping for a year.
Well, and I do have to ask you, Dr. Palencia-Kerr, you could have probably been anything. Why did you choose this? As a little kid, what made you do this?
I was very young. I think I was 14, 15 when I was fascinated with the brain. So, and I continue to be fascinated by the brain. It's just an exciting field, very exciting field. And psychology, of course, I'm a clinical psychologist. So I think these combination that the training as a clinical psychologist and clinical neuropsychologist give us is to have an appreciation for biological mechanisms of the brain, but also the psychological factors, mental health. So, I think it's a good combination.
Well, it's been wonderful. My guests have been Traci Allyn Shur, who is the president of the Broward Health Foundation, and, of course, his outstanding physician, Blanca Palencia-Kerr, PhD, neuropsychologist at the Memory Disorder Center at Broward Health North. We thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Anita. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Traci.
My pleasure. Thank you both.
Bye.
Bye.